Welcome to the Detroit Lions Morning Rounds. I'm Jimmy Liao. You can also find this segment frequently on the Detroit Lions on the Prowl YouTube channel with Kurt and Jim. Patricia is finally fired. I've been watching Lions for 40 years now. He may be the worst coach I've seen in that time. The other candidates are Rod Marinelli and maybe Darryl Rogers. I'm ambivalent about Quing's firing. On one hand, it's hard to evaluate the quality of players when the coaching is so horrid. But on the other hand, Quing did hire said coach. All right, let's get to the injuries from the Texans game. First, let's start with Danny Shelton, who likely had a right MCL sprain. So let's run the video. He's number 71 right here, the left defensive tackle. What you'll see here is his right leg area seems to get trapped on the ground. At the same time, his upper body gets twisted and pulled to his right. What this ends up causing is a valgus force, which is what pushes the knee to the inside, which sprains the MCL. Here's another view of that. He's right here, number 71, left defensive tackle. So again, here you'll see his leg appear to get trapped and a valgus force to his right knee. And then when you see the trainers checking on him at the end of this play, you'll see that he's touching the inside of that right knee, right where the MCL is. So you can see that right there. Now here's a picture on the YouTube channel of what a valgus force looks like to the knee and why that can cause an MCL sprain. Now, it was reported later in the game that he was on the sideline. He didn't return to the game, but it's a great sign that he was on the sideline. Maybe he was considering returning, so it suggests it's a mild MCL sprain. This means maybe he could be back for the Bears game, but more likely he'll be out a week or two after that. Now, just like with Stafford's thumb sprain, a reporter might mention that there's a partial tear of the MCL. Again, this changes absolutely nothing. It does not tell you the severity of the sprain. Any kind of sprain, even the mildest severity, is a partial tear. All right, so let's move to Marvin Jones now, who got hurt late in the fourth. He's at the top of the screen now. He's catching the ball right here. Now, after the play, first of all, he's trying to trap the ball, trying to hold the ball. But then right after this, he grabs his left calf area. Now, initially, I was concerned about his knee, like he had a patellar dislocation or ACL or something serious, because he's writhing on the ground in pain. You can see this. He's writhing on the ground. Looks like he's in extreme pain. He's reaching up, asking for help, reaching for a trainer. It looks very concerning right there. And now you got guys trying to help him up. Hawkinson's pulling him up. Now here's a close look at this. Now keep an eye on the left calf area. See if anything happens. I don't see anything that happens. He does not get hit in the area. There's no twisting. Does not appear to be anything wrong with the knee. And now he's back up and moving around. Not only is he moving around, he's walking pretty well. He's got a limp, but he's walking pretty well. He's jumping up and down, trying to test it out. Then he's walking on the sideline a little bit. The trainers don't appear to be overly concerned. Here's what I think happened on this. I think he probably had a cramp. This is late in the fourth quarter, and the cramp of your calf is one of the most serious looking injuries on the football field that's actually not serious at all. Players will be in extreme pain. They'll be writhing around. They'll look like they got shot in the leg and they're in the most pain of their life. But then a few minutes later, they're totally fine and walking around and even running back into the game. So my guess is that he has a cramp of his left calf. Nothing serious. Should be fine for the Bears game. Desmond Trufant hurt his left hamstring in the second quarter. Now, this is a guy who's been having left hamstring issues the entire year. This would be the second re-aggravation of the initial injury, which occurred on the first game of the season on September the 13th. At that time, he missed 2 games. He returned on October the 4th for the Saints game, played 44 snaps, but re-aggravated it during that game. He missed a month after that, returned on November the 8th, and now he aggravated that left hamstring again. So this is concerning going forward if this is going to be a chronic, recurrent issue. He's on the first year of a 2-year, $20 million deal. It has a $5 million signing bonus and a $3.5 million guarantee for 2021. That means the next GM is going to have to make a tough decision about whether to release him in the offseason. He's going to have a $6 million dead cap for next year, whereas keeping him, his cap hit will be $12.5 million. So it's going to be a tough decision, but don't be surprised if the next GM lets him go in the offseason, partially because of this recurring left hamstring issue, which potentially could pop up again next year. And you don't want an unreliable player on your roster, especially at a starting cornerback position. Now, at offensive guard, Vaitai was out for this game. He had a left foot issue all year. Oday Abushi started for him, played the whole game. So Vaitai, hopefully he can get his left foot right. It might take the whole offseason of rest to get this issue right. We have him on a 5-year deal, so hopefully this is not a lingering issue long term. Let's talk about Kenny Golladay, who initially, what I believe had a left hip flexor strain of mild severity. Go back to episode 25 for video analysis of that. It's thought to be a 2 to 4 week injury. The Lions did not put him on IR, which also suggested it was a mild injury. Well, this upcoming Bears game will be the 5-week mark. There's a very good chance physically he's ready to go for the Bears game. However, his contract situation is a factor. I discussed this in previous episodes. He's in a contract year. He's heading into free agency. The Lions will most likely franchise tag him, but he'll still be negotiating a new deal at that time. Is he willing to play at 80 or 90 or even 95% with this hip flexor strain? A couple reasons why he might decide to hold out a little bit longer, or maybe even the rest of the season. Number one is he doesn't want to put on bad tape playing through an injury. Number two, he doesn't want to aggravate the injury or even create a new injury, such as a catastrophic one like an ACL tear or Achilles tear. There's 5 games left in the season. That's the last thing he needs, is to have an injury going into the offseason, especially a severe one. So there is consideration from his standpoint. He's probably talking to his agent about this now. Should I just go and sit out the rest of the year so I'm fully healthy going into the offseason and ready to sign a long-term contract? All right, Danny Amendola hurt his hip 2 weeks ago against Washington. It could be the same injury as Golladay, a hip flexor strain, likely mild. It's again a 2 to 4 week injury. He could be back for the Bears game. Hard to say. Keep an eye out for the injury report for that this coming week. DeAndre Swift should be back for the Bears game at this point. He had a concussion on Wednesday or Thursday prior to the Thanksgiving game. The Lions, historically, over the past few years since Javid Best, have given players about 2 weeks between games after a concussion. So they would miss the next game after a concussion. That's why I thought with a high degree of certainty he was going to be out for the Thanksgiving game. He had an LP on Tuesday and Wednesday prior to the Thanksgiving game, which is a very good sign that he's progressing well in the concussion protocol. He likely will get up to an FP at some point this week and be ready for the Bears game. All right, so going forward, the rest of the year will be interesting as far as this interim coaching staff, do we see any scheme changes going forward? I think it's going to be fascinating to watch. Will we see more blitzing with the defense? Will the offense start using the pass to set up the run as opposed to vice versa? If we do see scheme changes, do we see some players play noticeably better? And this will all affect how the new GM decides whether to keep or release players this offseason. All right, thanks for listening. Feel free to leave comments, disagreements, discussion on the YouTube channel or Twitter at Jimmy Liao MD.